Hey everyone, it's Kat and I'm back to talk about favourites. Now, I used to do monthly favourites. I don't use enough products to maintain that anymore, and I'm so heavily sort of like fixated on project panning that favourites I can't maintain monthly, but I am sort of roughly trying to do them maybe seasonally. In Australia, it is gloomy and overcast and rainy all day today, but we are coming to the end of spring, so in a few days it's going to be summer. So I thought it's a good time to reflect on the last few months of favourites of mine. So there's some new products that I've been using, so it's sort of like a recap of what I've been trying and what stands out as being things that I like, and also a few products that I haven't mentioned on my channel or that are just old products that I keep using and really liking. So let's talk about it. And just because I'm going to be calling this like spring favorites, it's simply because these are sort of the favorites I've been liking throughout spring. There's pretty much no products that are specifically sort of spring themed. So if you are on the other side of the world and you're like, this doesn't apply to me, don't worry. These are just general favorites over the past few months. I'm going to talk about something from Natasha Denona. You might be thinking, I know what this is. I know what this is. It has to be this palette. And the answer is no, it's not. I did buy this in the last few months, the I Need a Nude palette, and I do like it. I just haven't been using it very much. I think since my review, I've used it like 3 times. So no, this is actually not a favorite. I do like it. I hope I come back to it. I think I've been also trying to really focus on finishing my Project Pan palette, like hitting pan on things. So if I'm using sort of basic shades, it's not something new. It's sort of trying to use up something old. It is instead the concealer. So this concealer I love. Love, 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 love. To the point where even though I do occasionally still buy new foundations, I ultimately want to use up most of my foundations, maybe have 1 or 2, like a higher coverage, maybe like a lower coverage, and then the rest of the time just use this. I have heard people say that that's a very like expensive idea, but it really isn't in terms of how much I use of this all over my face. So what I tend to do is, yes, I'll use this under my eyes wherever I need it as a concealer, but it's also really, really flawless as a general base. So what I tend to do is I'll put on like a hydrating base or something underneath. Then I'll just dot this sort of generally under the eyes, around the nose, chin, a bit on the forehead. And then if I have any excess left over on the wand, I might put them on my cheeks. And then I'll just get like a buffing brush and just buff it in. And it just like seamlessly, it sort of blends in and looks flawless, and you can actually spread it really, 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 really thin. It doesn't look like, I've tried to do that with other concealers and it sort of looks streaky and gathers in certain areas and just doesn't look nice. This blends so flawlessly and it lasts really, really nicely. If you don't powder it too much, it does give a more sort of natural finish, so not too dewy but not sort of set matte, and then it just sort of just develops and looks beautiful throughout the day. So I love this as a concealer and as a base, and I am so keen to almost like just get rid of all my face products and just have this in my base drawer. This is all I want. Depending what you pair it with, so what primer or what powder, you can tweak the sort of finish of it. So do you want it dewy or do you want it more matte? Like, you can do so much with it and I love it. And if you buy it 20% off, it's actually not that expensive. And to do my whole face, I use less than 1 sort of dip of product. So yes, you know, you get more product from a foundation. When I think of the sort of effect that this can give, it reminds me of foundations that in Australia you're spending more like $100 on, which is ridiculous. I think this was around 40 or in the 40s, but I got it 20% off, so it might have been high 30s. And I do think that this is more cost effective for how I use it and how I like it and what I think it's compared to. I think it's fantastic. I did actually do a review on it, but I didn't like, there was something about the footage that I didn't like. I ended up not reviewing it. So I keep in my head thinking that I've reviewed it fully, but I haven't. So I might actually have to do that again. I also really like the shades. This is like my perfect shade match, which I rarely get. They do have some really nice neutral shades that have sort of slight olive tones to them, and they have like pink based ones and peach based ones and color correctors in this range and a huge range of colors. My shade is N4 and I will repurchase this till the cows come home. So this is what I love. Not so much this. I hope I come back to this and I will enjoy it in the future, but right now this has been one of my favorite products of the year. I mentioned eyeshadow palettes, so let's just talk about my favorite eyeshadows that I've been using over the past few months. Now, I have been sort of, look, When it comes to really basic, everyday, sort of bland eyeshadows, I mainly have been using my Project Pan palette. So when it comes to the things that stand out as being things that I really enjoyed, it's more the shades that either have a lot of fun texture or some sort of wearable color that stand out as above and beyond sort of your just everyday standard eyeshadow. So palette, let's talk about this one. Oh, you can't even see it. This is the GLAMINATRIX Rich Romantic palette. I really like this palette. I did a full review on it. I love that this is probably the most spring palette or release or item that I'm talking about today. What I love about this palette is that it's got some really fun textures. So a lot of these that look quite rosy and pretty standard actually do catch the light in different ways and give you some nice fun effects. A lot of them do catch this orangey color. You can see that this white one that actually just looks white is catching the light from the mirror and is looking like a fiery orange. A few of these do have that orange sort of shift, which I quite like. I don't want like full on orange on my eye, but that like catching the light is really, really pretty. I also like the sort of basic browns. I like the shades of purple, and I like that this like peachy color, this coral color. I love that. I think it's such a fun pop of color just on the like the lower lash line or just in the outer corner or something. So this is a mix of fun texture, really interesting effects, but also really wearable. So this is probably the palette I've been reaching for most if I want to play with color. Also from GLAMINATRIX Cosmetics, I have actually been liking their single eyeshadows, which have that sparkly texture. They released a whole bunch of these. I think they released, was it 12 of them? The ones that I like the most are the standard sort of brown ones because they're the colors that I reach for on a daily basis. I just had to go put on more lights because it's getting so stormy. So these are the shades that I've been reaching for the most. So I think the shades are Fox is in the middle, then Lion is a sort of warmer gold brown, and then the more chocolatey brown is Bear. Now the reason I like these three, which look like the most boring, there are some more sort of lighter shades, but I quite like shimmery browns. I love sparkle. I really love sparkle, but I find that sparkly color for me is a little bit too much. So having that sparkle texture and that real sort of, you know, beautiful reflect on the eye in a more sort of everyday wearable color for me, I really, really, really like. So I love these singles, and they're so good as well. You can just pop them in, you know, a makeup bag and take them wherever you want to go. So they are very compact. So there you go. But I will swatch them for you. So I think this was Lion, really intense. It's a little bit more warm. This one is Fox, which is my most used one. There's a little bit more rosiness to it, you can see. So less gold and more sort of rosy, but still that sort of brown color that I like. And this one is a slightly darker one, which is Bear. So again, it's a lot more chocolatey in the base, but they are super intense and really sort of metallic sparkly. So they're very, very pretty. So that's my most reached for one, but this is nice to add a bit of smokiness, and this is nice to add a little bit of warmth. So I love those. Now what I'm actually wearing on my eyes, which is a lot more twinkly and a lot more dispersed, is not one of these. It's the next thing I want to talk about, but I love this as well. You can see it gives this sort of like, I would consider it like very, very twinkly. The particles of shimmer are quite large, so it actually does look like dispersed sort of silver glitter, but I think it's so pretty and twinkly, and it just looks like, you know, fairy lights or the night sky or something. So I think this one's really pretty, and this is in the next palette. So the eyeshadow I'm wearing is actually from the Kaleidos quad. This is the Venus Trap quad, and the shade that I love is this one here. It does actually look like it's got a bit of a taupe base, but it's pretty much a translucent base, and it's just like suspended silver taupey glitter, and it's very, very pretty. I don't love these other shades. This light pink is too light for me to even really show up much at all, but what I tend to pair this with is that shade there. So it's a very cool toned taupey gray, and that's what I've got just a little bit in the crease and lightly on my lower lash line. If I go too heavy handed with it, it looks a little bit too like sunken eyes and eye bags. So I sort of wish this was either a single or in a duo, because those two for me I don't really like. So I wouldn't recommend this for everyone. I think you'll know if this is a color story that suits you. It's very, very, very cool, but I love this twinkly shade, and it is very different from the GLAMINATRIX ones. These are more, I would say they're so jam-packed with sort of a sparkly, glittery effect that they almost look metallic on the eyes, whereas this looks very dispersed and again, that clear base. So it's like you've just dusted a little bit of sparkle on your eye, but it's somehow stuck nicely. So I will zoom in and show you the difference. So this is the Kaleidos one. So you can see that it doesn't have much of a base color at all, and it is definitely more twinkly. I might turn down the brightness so you can see it a lot better. The particles are a lot bigger, so they give you that sort of really night sky twinkly effect, and I think that it looks best when you sort of blend it out because it gives you that really twinkly effect. Whereas these, when you blend them out, yes, you can get a little bit of that effect, but because the shimmer is a little bit more finely milled, you don't quite get it as twinkly as that. So this one, if you wanted to get like a really dark eye and have like a twinkly night sky effect, this is the type of eyeshadow you want to go for. This one gives a beautiful shimmer effect, but it doesn't look as twinkly as this. Like just the different, look at that. Like it's so special. So they both, I love them both, but this is something I haven't seen before. Like to get that effect, you sort of need a loose glitter and it to be quite like big particles of glitter. So I think this is stunning. All right, I want to show it even more because when you sort of catch the light, you can see the difference. This is such a crazy sparkle that it gives, whereas this just looks like a dispersed shine, whereas that looks like magic. So yeah, both very different effects and both very beautiful, but this is so unique. And I know there's going to be someone in the comments asking me how this Kaleidos one compares to the Urban Decay Moondust eyeshadows. I know Space Cowboy is really popular at the moment. I have actually compared them. Space Cowboy does have more of that sort of twinkly effect with a more sort of sheerer base. It's got like an orangey sort of base, but it does have a sheerer base. But the particles aren't as big as and noticeable as this. This is almost like you've just taken not quite craft glitter, but you know, a bigger particle glitter and dust on your eyes. Whereas the Urban Decay ones, they are that dispersed glitter, but they're much finer. So they'll give you that a twinkly effect, but not quite as sparkly as this. This is going to be in some people's minds like a nightmare. They're like, it's going to rain down my face. It's going to look horrible. It's going to look too sparkly. If you don't like that really dispersed sparkly effect, it isn't for you. I would also recommend putting this on, like doing your eyeshadow before your base, but the odd loose sort of sparkle on my cheekbone, I don't really care. I think it's gorgeous. I'm wearing it today. You can see that it can look really natural and really pretty, but it's just, for me, very unique. Speaking of Kaleidos, they did release a couple of blushes alongside this collection. They had 2 quads, blushes, new lip glosses. To be fair, I don't really reach for the lip glosses very much. I wasn't super impressed. I did like some of the shades, but I wasn't crazy for the formula. What I do really like though is one of their blushes called Pearl Bliss. Now, their blushes were so fair that you'd have to be like the fairest of fair to get much color out of them. But this shade is stunning as a fair person's sort of contour bronzer shade. This is like a rosy brown. It's quite light. It's quite smooth. I'm wearing it today just as a bit of a contour. I never contour because I find it makes my face look too muddy. And then when I go for like cool tone contours, they look too gray stripe on me. But because this has that rosiness to it, it is beautiful as a fair person, sort of subtle, sort of just face shaping effect. I think it's gorgeous. And if I'm going to go out and I want to look a little bit more defined, this is what I reach for. They also have another shade called Hotshot, which is very similar, just slightly less rosy. So if you're very fair and you are quite cool tone, so you've got a lot of pink in your skin, I would go the Pearl Bliss one. If you have a little bit more neutral or a little bit more warmer tones to your skin, but you're still quite fair, Hotshot is a little bit more, you can see it's a little bit more orangey, but they're both very similar. I just tend to reach for this one a little bit more, but it's a really beautiful, almost like contour bronzer blush in one. It's just a really beautiful face shaping color. Again, not something I wear on a daily basis because I don't tend to feel like I need to contour on a daily basis, but if I'm going to contour, it's going to be with Pearl Bliss. What I do tend to use more on a daily basis, and this is a very old product that I've had for a long time. It's by Kevyn Aucoin. I am using this up in my project pan, but I have really been enjoying it. Now, I originally got this as a present from my lovely friend Haley, and it is a highlighter, but I've started using it as like an all over face color product. So this is the shade Sahara, and so this is actually an ombre effect product where it goes from a sort of champagne sort of color to a rose gold to a bronze. Very, very subtle gradient because they're quite similar colors. But this is beautiful as a highlighter. It's very, very subtle. Gives just like a bit of a sheen to the cheeks. This one I sort of use all over, wherever. But I particularly like this more bronzy side, which I'd previously ignored because I mainly saw this palette as being a highlighting palette. I now use this one as a bit of a bronzer because it adds a little bit of glow to the skin, a little bit of color, nothing too extreme. So it gives you a little bit of color, and then it gives you sort of a bit of a, not a sheen as in like a highlight sheen, just like a beautiful glow. So I have been using this and getting love out of this, and I keep wanting to use it because it's just so easy. Also, since it's not super pigment and really bold, you can go really heavy handed with this and it doesn't even matter. Like it doesn't, you can just dust it on and it just gives a glow and a bit of color to the face, which I really like. I did look it up. You can still get this, but it's in a much smaller size. So look, their grams are wrong. So this contains 21 grams, and on the website they say that their new one contains 66 grams, which is not right. And then they say, I think the new one is like 0.2 ounces, whereas this is 0.74 ounces. So this is nearly 4 times bigger. So yeah, if you did like the look of this, you can get it, but it's much smaller, much smaller. This giant size is no longer available. The sun is finally back, hooray. Let's talk about blushes. I've mentioned these before. I mainly have mentioned this Bobbi Brown one. So this is the Sunset Glow Highlighting Powder. I don't know if it's a limited edition shade, but it tends to be sold out places and then come back, and I don't know, but it is essentially my dupe for MAC's Stereo Rose. It is beautiful. It gives this beautiful sort of highlight blush effect. Really, really pretty. I love it. I reach for it often. I'll have to insert a swatch because at the moment the lighting's not the best, but it gives this beautiful sort of pink highlight effect that sort of gives a blushy effect, but like a shiny blushy effect without too much base color. Stunning. I love it. But I have actually found a cheaper dupe that is easier to access. It is the Bare Minerals. This is the highlighting blush in Pink Glow. This has that same sort of color, that same sort of effect. I'm wearing it today, so I'll turn the brightness down because the lighting is driving me crazy. But I've got a blush and sort of highlight effect, and that's all in one with this. And I just sort of reach for this more than the Bobbi Brown one because it is cheaper and I know it's easier to replace and find. So I use them both. They both give a very similar effect. So close up, this is just the effect. So it gives you that beautiful sort of healthy glow on the cheeks and a little bit of color, like, so it doesn't look too flat, but it's not, there's no base color to it. So a lot of other blushes that I've seen with a very shimmery finish have a strong base color. The color in this is actually in the shine, which is really, really pretty. This is the Bare Minerals one. This is the Bobbi Brown one. Just from the finger swatch, I think I like the look of this one better, but it's also baked, so it's just a different finish. This is a little bit more powdery, but here you can have a look. This is Bobbi Brown. Beautiful. Again, really subtle. Gives that blushy effect, but not too much. And this is the Bare Minerals, which again is a little bit more powdery, is a little bit cooler toned, but both very pretty and give that beautiful glow. So I sort of like this one a little bit more, but this one is a really nice dupe and like a fraction of the price. So I love both of those. And I've only had this for a little while and I've already worn it down like quite a bit. So you know that I legitimately love it. All right, let's now talk about lips. And I do have a few lip products to talk about. One is in my handbag because I use it that often. Two that I want to start with are actually holiday releases that I talked about in my recent holiday haul. So these are from Glossier. I placed a Glossier order for the first time a few weeks ago. I've got these. I've got the cream blushes in 2 shades and the powder. Now I think I will do a demo at some point using them, But so far, these are the things that sort of stand out as being things that I can incorporate very easily into my daily routine. Now, these are the Balm.coms. I have Cookie Butter, which has a cookie butter fragrance and sort of taste to it. This was released last year, holiday release, and it's this beautiful caramel tone. I will swatch it for you. And then I also have Hot Cocoa, which is the rebranded Swiss Miss, which I think was out the year before. And it's got this beautiful sort of browny burgundy tone to it. Very, very subtle. Now, I love these. I think... Look, these are the original formula, so the non-vegan formula that people used to rave about, and then they changed their formula to be vegan. Apparently nowhere near as good. I didn't want to try the new ones because people have said such like, they're just average, and for the price, like these are pretty expensive. So when they brought out these in the original formula, I'm like, this is my opportunity to try the original formula, and I like the idea of these colors and these scents. So I've been using these quite a lot, and they are very, very nice. The caramel one, like these have like a, what I would call like a whipped butter sort of effect to them. So this is the caramel one. It's very subtle, very subtle. Smells like sort of burnt butter and sweet biscuity scent. If I build it up a little bit more, you can see it there. So it is like a caramel brown, which I like on a daily basis. Now, I actually am wearing this one. This, and this is my only sort of qualm with them, is they wear off very, very quickly. So this is sort of like a dark brown color. It's almost got sort of reddy wine tones to it. So it's that one there. I put this on only like less than an hour ago, and it sort of completely, the effect is still there in terms of the hydration, but the color just totally disappears. So I have not eaten anything since putting it on. It just has disappeared. I love this color though. It adds this beautiful tone. It's like a defining tone. It will work with pretty much any skin tone, any lip color, any whatever. It just adds a little bit more richness to your lip color. I think it's gorgeous. So I love both of these. And they have this sort of texture where it's like a whipped butter. So when you put it on your lips, it feels like a very slippery lip oil butter feel. It's not sticky at all. There's no stickiness. It's like when your lips move together, they just slide, but it almost feels like, instead of being like a thin oil, it almost feels like a whipped butter. Very, very lovely, but not long lasting, which is my problem with them. But they are very nice, and I will probably, you know, keep them on my desk, probably have them in my handbag. I really, really love them. What I also love about them is I give this sort of like, I want to say like diffused look to the lips. So they're not very, very, very shiny. They're not like wet look shiny, but they give this beautiful sort of fullness. It's like they also minimize the look of any lines and any sort of creases in your lips. So it almost looks like your lips are a little bit more cushiony and soft, which I think is gorgeous. So I think there's something about them that I really, really love. If I want something that's more high shine, I love this. It's the Lineage Lip Glowy Balm in Grapefruit. So this has a bit of a grapefruit, sort of this corally tint to it. I'll wipe this off so we can show you. I've been wearing this a lot, and often I'll get comments being like, what's on your lips? And I usually don't think to put it in the description box because it's just a lip balm, but it is very pretty. Let's zoom in a little bit. So this, again, it's got a little bit of color. I put this over lipstick, I put under lipstick, I put on its own. The good thing is that little bit of color means that if you do have any powder or any foundation residue on your lips, it does cover it a little bit. It doesn't make you look super dead, but it just gives this beautiful high shine, wet look gloss and a bit of a pink tint. So it's very different in terms of feel and also look compared to the Glossier ones. This gives you that wet look. Again, it's not sticky. You don't get those sticky bits, but this isn't as sort of buttery. It is a little bit more like lip glossy texture. This looks like water or like glass lips. It's just so beautiful and gives this beautiful shine. And it does hydrate your lips and last fairly well. It doesn't last anywhere near as their like overnight lip sleeping mask, but it is a really nice one, and that just stays in my handbag or on my desk because I reach for it a lot. And again, sometimes I'll have a bit of lipstick on that's wearing off. I want a bit of hydration. I put this over the top. It mixes so well and layers so well with lipstick. So this is sort of my go-to that I've been reaching for a lot for this beautiful effect. But if I want something that's less shiny and a little bit more just healthy lip looking, these are quite good, but the color does wear off very quickly. Last couple of makeup favorites. I wanted to firstly mention my Juvia's Place eyeliners. Now I've got a brown shade. It's called, these are the Nubian eyeliners, and I've got Cocoa and I've got Royal, which is a blue. I really love these. Firstly, they stand out in my collection so I can reach for them easily with this beautiful purple packaging. You can see the colors at the end, so very easy to grab. These are that twister retractable pencil, which is handy, and they're really pigmented, but they're not too creamy that they sort of smear everywhere and smush. Like, you can actually use them on your lash line. They're firm enough to not break when you're doing that, but they're also creamy enough to go on your waterline really nicely, and I particularly love that blue shade. That blue is stunning in the waterline for a bit of pop of blue or something. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, these have been in my collection for a while. I think I had them unopened, and I opened them only a couple months ago, and I've reached for them quite a lot because they are so stunning. So yeah, I like these. These are great. Beautiful eyeliners. And then I wanted to mention this powder. This is another thing that I've had in my collection for quite some time and I've just ignored, but I'm sort of not running low on powders, that's the wrong term, but I have much less powder than I used to. I decluttered some, I gave some to friends, I used some up this year. So I really only have, I think, 3 loose powders and maybe 1 pressed powder. So I don't have much. But this one I really enjoy. So this is the Sigma, and it's the Soft Focus Setting Powder in Vanilla Bean. For a while I was doing sort of like base tests on TikTok and sort of uploading compilations of them here. Now I do want to keep going with it. I think my skin has settled down a little bit now that it's no longer winter and my skin's not as dehydrated. But this powder is great. I found that other powders were too drying and they would make my sort of, especially around my eyes, like look really sort of crepey, and in sort of my forehead area look really like dry and deserty, whereas this one doesn't. It sets my base that I need because I've got oily combination skin. So I need my base to be set. I need my concealer to be set, otherwise it migrates and moves, but it doesn't like emphasize lines or look really dry. So this powder, it's caught me off guard. I didn't expect to love it as much as I do, but I just find myself wanting to reach for this to the point where the other powders that I have, I've got a Laura Mercier one that I want to use up next year. My Nakia Joy one I want to use up next year. And I've also got an e.l.f. one that I really like. But yeah, pretty much this is the one that I sort of want to keep at the moment because I get consistently good results from it, which is great. I like it. I'm very happy. Talking about my dehydrated skin, now I have been trying a lot of skincare over the past 6 months. Like, I think where I've been experimenting most is like trying to revamp my skincare. So I have all these like layers of hydration. So I'm not looking dry and like, you know, when you get like the fine lines because it's from dehydration and you get like the fine lines on your forehead, I'm trying to avoid that. So I'm trying to plump up the skin. I'm trying to add like a lot of hyaluronic acids and essences, which I normally think are not worth it and not worth the hassle, but I've been like layering and spraying and multiple layers of moisturizer. Like, I've been going crazy. But the 2 things that stand out as things that I really like and I get a lot of enjoyment or a lot of benefit from, firstly is the Estée Lauder. This is the Advanced Night Repair Synchronized Multi-Recovery Complex. Now, this is a huge bottle. It's 100 mils, is it, or 150? It's 100 mils, and I bought a duo of this at the Estée Lauder corporate store. They had a sale, they had a duo pack, and it was like so much cheaper than buying even like the 50 ml version of this. So I stocked up. And I'm not mad about it because this stuff makes my skin feel so nice the next day. I can literally keep the same skincare routine going, and if I use this or I don't, I see a difference the next day. So my skin feels noticeably more plump when I use this. Sometimes I even use it during the day. I normally wouldn't do that because I'd be like, it's expensive and I think blah, blah, blah. But because I have so much of it, because I bought 2 duo packs, so I've got 4 of these under my, like 3 of these under my sink, one I'm using. I'm like, yeah, use it during the day, get that hydration. And from what I could see, there's no ingredients that are like damaging to the skin if it's near light. So this is just like, okay, use it overnight, but you can also use it during the day. Apparently you can also mix it with your higher coverage foundations if you want to add like a little bit more dewiness to it. Anyway, I love this. I think it's great, and I'm glad I've I bought heaps of them because at the moment I sort of don't want to be without it, because I think it has made a big difference. And I think including this and also some other best practices and more layering at night has really helped my skin. So I'm not going to be without this right now. One thing that I've been using more recently, this is from a holiday pack, but I really like it, is the Tatcha. This is the rice wash. So it's a cleanser. I think it's really nice. I think it's really good at sort of removing makeup and residue from my like balm cleansers or whatnot. And I just feel like it makes my skin feel really fresh, and I just really like the experience. So at night, this sort of feels like a bit of a spa sort of cleanse experience. This is a 50 ml sort of mini version. I think the full size is like 100 ml or 120 ml. I would consider repurchasing this because I really do enjoy it. I think it's a really nice cleanser if you are happy to treat yourself a little bit with cleansers. I sort of go both ways. Like I have sort of CeraVe and sort of cheaper cleansers, but then there are times where I'm like, no, I want to feel like this is a bit of a end of the day sort of treatment, and I really like this. So yeah, I've revamped my skincare, and I feel like those are the things that I probably enjoy the most using them. But I do have a lot of good skincare. It's just narrowing down which ones are the most effective and which ones I feel like I get really good results from. And this is definitely one of them, and this is just a nice experience. All right, lastly, I want to talk about my fragrances. So I have bought a few fragrances. To be fair, I've used up a couple of fragrances as well. But I went to Law Perfumery, which is in Fitzroy in Melbourne, and they're so lovely, and they've got such great products. And the staff are really lovely. And I wanted to find something that had like licoricey scents. So I ended up picking up this. This is Elborn from Carner. Is it Carner, Barcelona? Anyway, this is stunning. It is not something I would typically wear. I like really fresh, citrusy, aquatic, ozonic sort of scents, like a really fresh, because I can get headaches from fragrances, and this can sometimes put me in a bit of a headachy state. But this one is a lot more musky, and it's a bit sweet, and it's got slight sort of licorice notes to it, which I really like. When I put it on, it sort of settles down to like a sweet musk with slight licorice notes, and it sort of is very, I don't know, I feel like I like licorice. I've always liked licorice, and my dad loves licorice. So when I wear this, it's a little bit more sort of nostalgic, and if I'm going to go something that's a little bit more muskier, this is what I reach for. It's definitely not my everyday perfume because, again, it's sort of a little bit musky for what I'm used to, but occasionally you want to feel a little bit musky, and this is like a really nice one that I really dig. I also ordered this one, which is a little oil from Bon Lux, and it's called Moonlit. Now this was recommended to me, I think it was on Instagram or TikTok or something, and it is beautiful. And when you first smell it, it smells very lavenderish, but it does settle down to smell really licoricey. And I love it. I actually like to pair the two of these. So you've got sort of the musky, sweet sort of licorice, and I sort of emphasize it with this. And to me, together, it's just like licorice all sorts, and I just love it. So these are when I want to feel a little bit more spicier, which is unusual. It's not common, but I really like it. And then I also want to talk about this fragrance. I actually was gifted this. I went to the store opening. So this is a local Melbourne brand. They had a pop-up store a few months ago, which is where I got this from. I went to the opening of that. And they've since, as of Friday, I don't know when this is going up, but last week, they opened their permanent store. It's in Fitzroy. So this brand is FlânerGreen, and the fragrance that I have is Green with Envy. So it's more green, which obviously I like. It's more of an everyday scent to me. But this is a little bit woody. I've got the notes up. The top notes, bergamot, mandarin, orange, rosemary. Middle notes, seawater, black pepper, geranium, violet. And the base notes are fir, Buddha wood, white musk, and amber. So again, they're notes that normally I don't go for because it is a little bit peppery and a little bit spicy, but because it is also green and fresh and has citrus notes, I can actually wear it. So if I do want to go and lean into that sort of more cooler weather, sort of more ambery, woody sort of vibe without it being too overpowering and headachy for me, I really like this one because it has that really fresh green and citrus sort of lifts it up. So I also have been wearing this quite a lot. So those are the fragrances that are new to me in the last few months, and they've been really fun to use sort of throughout the sort of rainy weather, because spring here in Melbourne is quite rainy. So they're sort of twists on what I normally go for. And I really like the sort of variety that I'm sort of having now in my perfume collection. All right, of course, the perfect lighting comes when I'm just finishing up the video. It is what it is, but those are my sort of products that I've been using and really enjoying over the last few months. So I'd love to know what your favorite products were over the past couple of months, like what keeps consistently coming up as things that you keep reaching for. I'd love to know in the comments. And a big thank you to my channel members for supporting my channel and helping me make these videos. So I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.